This is Inner Work, a spiritual growth podcast, a sanctuary for healers, lightworkers, and spiritual practitioners here to raise consciousness on this planet. You've come to the right place to heal yourself and fully awaken your unique gifts so you can show up to serve others as powerfully and purposefully as possible. I am your host, Josephine Hartman, a certified intuitive healer and Akashic Records master teacher. I'm honored you're here and delighted to walk with you on your path for a little while. To connect with me and explore ways of working together, please head over to josephinehartman.com. Welcome to this special episode of Inner Work. I've created this series to give you more of an inside look into how the Akashic Records work, how they can change your life when you learn how to masterfully and effectively work with them, and when you activate their energy in your life. So to show you this, instead of just telling you about it, I've invited some special guests to be featured in this series. These are all graduates of my Akashic Records certification program. They are healers, coaches, therapists, or spiritual practitioners in some capacity who can speak firsthand about the experience of using the records to heal themselves first, and also to align fully with their purpose in this lifetime. These beautiful guests can also speak about the transformational power of the records when we use them to serve our clients. My intention behind this series is to give you a clear glimpse of the expansive possibilities for working with the records, how uniquely they can be used by each of us based on our individual soul's blueprint, and just how life-changing it is when we turn on the power and healing and divine guidance of the records, and we commit to making them not just another healing modality, but truly a way of life. So for this interview, I am speaking with Jessica McLean. She is a certified master Akashic Records practitioner through my program. And Jessica is a soul weaver. She interlaces energy, intuition, and healing to guide others back to their true essence. Jessica's passion is helping others reconnect with their inner being, unraveling the threads of limiting beliefs, past life contracts, and energetic blocks to realign with their highest potential. Healing is a lifelong journey of remembering who you are, and Jessica is here to walk that path with you. You can connect with her, explore more of her services by visiting www.theconsciouscrow.com, and we're going to have that link in the show notes as well. So I hope you enjoy this episode. So hi, Jess, and welcome to this series on the life-changing power of the Akashic Records, what we can do with the records, how the records have transformed your life in different ways. I'm so excited you're here and excited to talk about the records with you today.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start at the beginning, just with a question that I like to open up to everyone, which is what first drew you to the Akashic Records?
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to go all the way back in my mind. What first drew me to it was after my first child was born, and this was in 2019. I started getting back into my healing practice and my energetic work. And I had a dream from, she's now one of my guides. She comes to me. She's an old mentor of mine, an old teacher. And I remember speaking to me when I was younger about the Akashic Records, but I was like 16. So I'm like, I don't know what that is. Whatever. I was 16, right? And then she came to me in a dream, and I woke up and I went, Akashic Records. I need to look into this. So I started looking into it, and I read books on it and took minor classes by others. And then I just kept stumbling. So I'm like, I want more substance. I don't want the surface level. And so I kept digging deeper and deeper and Googling, and I like stumbled on your webpage, and I'm like, oh, I feel connected there. I'm like, wow, I need to explore this one way more. And that's kind of like how I stumbled from hearing about it when I was 16 into now I'm in my 30s, like deep into it.
Yes, I know. So it's been a journey. Wow. And
Yes.
that's amazing that it came to you in a dream. Like, and before that, you had
Yes.
no sense of even the word Akashic Records or,
I remember listening to her talk about it because she was a witch.
oh, okay. I
She
see.
practiced Reiki. She was called herself a psychic, which like she totally was. And she was talking about like the records and how universal it is. But I was 16, 17. I was a kid. I was young and dumb. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I did the energy stuff, but I'm like, nah, like I'm gonna go off to college and become corporate.
Right.
Right. And so ever since like I disconnected from her, I mean, not disconnected, I still kept a communication and friendship with her. But when I went off to college, it was like my entire like psyche shut down, all of the could be potential. And then after my son was born, it was like I was ripped open, like, hey, remember all of this stuff that you need to remember?
Wow.
So it was like a very big, aha, you need to go back into doing all of this stuff.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense that when people have a life-changing event like
Yes.
that, let's say like having your first child, which is massive,
Yes.
that sometimes a lot of this stuff can come back to the surface, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes. It
amazing.
was an opportunity.
Yes. And so after the records appeared in your dream, were you using them, like personally connecting?
Um,
Or yeah, what was your connection at that point?
I didn't think I was until honestly recently. Like I was I think I was going into the records, not knowing I was going into the records.
Hmm.
And that's kind of how it works, right? You don't recognize it until you start learning about them more. And I remember distinctly going, oh, is that a past life? And I was talking to my mom about it, who's very open about all of this too. And she's like, that might have been a past life. You should explore that more. And so it's like exploring those things without like even the knowledge. Now I'm grateful I had the knowledge, but yeah, it was very much like uh how would you say like just not even having fun, but I lost the word, but it's there. But it's more like you didn't know. You don't know until you know, right?
Oh, completely. Yes.
Yeah.
Was it more just like spontaneous, like
Yes.
just happening spontaneously? Maybe you don't have the
Yeah.
full framework of like what this is,
Yes.
what you're tapping into, and maybe there is a sense of fun. There is
Yes.
a sense of like curiosity, like, oh, what is this
Yes.
that's opening up in myself?
Yes. And it's like, oh, okay, how do I get back to that? It's like, wait a minute, I
Right.
did that. I downloaded something, but like,
Yes.
why and how did I do that? Because I want to do
Right.
it again.
Right. Yeah, that's such a great point though, because a lot of my students when they first come into the program and they've already been spontaneously accessing the
Hmm.
records in one way or another. And now one of the reasons why they come in is because they're seeking more of that. Okay, how do I make this
Yeah.
intentional? How do I create a
Yes.
process around this so that it's not just spontaneously happening here and there? So
Yes.
like we can sort of capture
Contain
it
it.
or yeah, contain it, capture it when
Yes.
we need it, when we want it. Um, and maybe that was one of the reasons you came into the program as
Yes.
well. Yeah. Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons why I came into your program,
Yeah.
that
Well,
being one
yeah,
of
I want to
them.
hear 'em. I want to hear. So what were you seeking to get out of the program when you first came in?
I wanted just a deeper knowledge and foundation. Like I can be one of those people who just continuously seek knowledge.
Yeah.
But with your program, it felt, especially when I was exploring it on your website, I'm like, wow, she's got a full curriculum. She's got, honestly, she's got her shit together, is what I
Oh,
was thinking. I'm like,
that's
wow, that's
sweet.
exactly what I need.
Yeah.
And it was just like, wow, okay, she's got the foundation. She's got all of this like practice and learning about like the different facets of it, which is fascinating to me because the books I had been reading and like the mini classes that I took part in, I'm like, oh, that's like barely scratching the surface. I want to know like the deep dive. Like, don't, it's kind of like, I don't like small talk. So it's
Right.
like, just give me the awkward, give me the big talk. I want
Yeah.
to know all of it. Just give me the TMI. Just give it to me.
Right.
So,
Yes. Yeah, you don't shy away from like just let's get it all out on the table
yes.
and like as deep as we can
Yeah,
go. Yeah, which is one of my values as
exactly.
well. That's probably why we resonated. Yeah.
Yes. I was so excited when I found you. And then when we had our first conversation, I'm like, yes, I want Josephine to be my mentor and I want to be involved. And that's what kept me coming back.
Yeah, I'm so grateful and honored that you chose me for
Me
that
too.
and for all the things we've done together since then.
It's been
Amazing.
good.
Yeah, I know it has been so good. And all of your contributions to the program, like as a
Mhm.
student, have made it, what it is as well and have made
Well,
it
thank
awesome.
you.
So, um, okay, and then can you walk us through a little bit of maybe some of your first openings of the records, like while in the program, if you can think back and remember, or,
Yes.
as you started connecting within the framework of the program, what was that like?
Yes. It was frustrating, honestly, at first. If I'm being completely honest,
Yeah.
it was because like the spontaneous dropping down, it wasn't like a regular occurrence. I'm like, oh wow, we're getting into the let's consciously do it.
Yeah.
And when I was consciously doing it,
Mm,
it was really frustrating because I'm like, oh, it isn't how I expected it to be. And that is one of the first lessons I learned was like not to have any expectations, but to allow your expectations to evolve and change because it was nothing like I thought it was. It was frustrating. I couldn't grasp anything. I felt like it really put the shadow of like being a failure.
oh, wow.
And I'm like, wow, I'm failing at this. Like, this should be easy. I'm getting a framework on this. I'm being told exactly how to do it, and I can't do it.
Right.
So that was my first couple openings. And I remember in the first course series I did with you, I was a little bit more like kind of shy and I didn't share as much as I had in this previous one. Because I was like, wow, all these people, they're having such like great responses, and here I am going, I think I saw the color pink. Like, so it was definitely like that. It really, honestly, it really butt me up against a lot of my limiting beliefs and framework and shadow work. I'm like, wow, I got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, but I'm so glad you are saying all of that honestly, because as I always say, like learning how to work with the records in this conscious, intentional way where you're like sitting and you're connecting and it's not just, oh, whenever it happens, however it happens. It's like
Right.
we're doing it in a more real way in a sense, or like not more real,
Yes.
but more structured. Um, I think for it is kind of like a healing journey and a process in and of
Oh,
itself,
absolutely.
learning how to master the
Hmm.
records and work with them intentionally and get to that level of intentionally being in that space and starting to receive and tapping into the Akashic field. And that healing process can bring up so much of what you're saying right now. So
So much.
the fear, the imposter syndrome, the
Hmm.
I'm failing at this, the comparison, right, with everyone else
Yes.
around you, like, oh, wait, they're having a whole experience and they're meeting with guides and ancestors and
Yes.
they're having a whole movie, right? Which is unusual for that to be
Right.
one of the initial experiences in the record. But yeah, you can go into the comparing, you can go into all of
Yes.
that, the inadequacy, the fear of being inadequate, which are all these
Yes.
like ego patterns and
Mhm.
beliefs, and right?
Absolutely.
So what do you feel helped you work through all of that the most? Like how did you work through all of that?
Well, consistency really, and honestly, like you being open and receptive and just offering confirmation that my experience was not wrong or
Right.
invalid.
Right.
It's you offered a container of holding that space for me.
Hmm.
And I remember when I had my Akashic Records read by you, the big limiting belief and contract that was coming up was based all around fear. And I remember our first couple email exchanges with opening the records. It was like confirming that yes, this is fear-based and ego-based, but it's okay. So
Got
it
it.
was a lot of just like confirmation that I'm like, okay, I'm in the space where I need to be, and
Right.
I'm on the path that I'm currently needing to be on. It's
Yes.
not wrong. So it was
Yes.
like that constant back and forth email exchange of like, okay, so I'm still being seen and I'm not falling behind. And it was a whole journey. It was a whole ass journey.
Yeah, it was. But you stayed in the room, right, so to speak,
Yes.
metaphorically, as all of this was happening, which I think is a key part of it as well, is like making that commitment. And
Yes.
no, which a lot of what we do in the program is like normalize these things
Yes.
that come up. So the fear, the ego, interference,
Everything.
the limiting beliefs, the everyone else can do it better than I can, because we're carrying sometimes that baggage, well from
Hmm.
before people
Oh,
are coming into the
absolutely.
program. So if we have that going on, like it is gonna erupt, it is gonna come up.
Right.
And it's a great opportunity to clear that out. Like the records are already
Truly.
helping you clear that out by
Truly.
bringing it to the surface, right?
Well, and then it's a safe container when you're in like the class that you bring together. You bring together people who you're safe to share this information with because it is very intimate. I tell my clients this is intimate work. And so being able to be open and receptive with other students is a very big practice in this intimacy and safety container. And it's having that offering is what kept me coming back. Was like, okay, I may feel inadequate with other people. However, they're here encouraging me. So
Yeah.
I'm not alone in this. So it's like a lot of that big encouragement between you and the classmates and just reminding us like you have to do the work in order to get through it.
Right. Well,
That
it's true. Right.
which
You
is
do.
healing. The only way to get through it is to go through it. So
Yes, that's so true. And it's not to say that it's easy,
no,
comfortable, right? It isn't. That's the whole
it's
point.
often uncomfortable.
Right. But if you're genuinely growing, there is going to be some level of discomfort, right?
Right.
So normalizing that as well. But I also love what you're saying about, I do feel in the cohorts that we've been in together that it's not this sense of competition, like nobody's competing. It's
No.
not like, oh,
Mm-mm.
I'm in the records and I'm getting all the stuff and you're not, or
No.
comparing. It's just more validating that everyone has a
Yes.
different way of connecting to the records, everyone receives information differently.
It's so cool to be a part of that and to
Yes.
like listen to other people's stories. I'm like, wow, I didn't think of it that way. I didn't think about doing it that way. I want to try it.
Yeah.
So it's like very cool to share that experience. And it's just, I miss the class already.
Yeah, I know. I miss every cohort that we move through.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's so true. It's like, I try my best to create a space where each people's like individual unique gifts can
Hmm.
shine. And I also, like you, when I'm listening to people's experiences, I'm like, oh, wait, I didn't know you could do that
Right.
with the records. I think that,
Yeah.
which is the amazing and beautiful thing for me that I grow as well as we go. And I'm like, oh, wait, I can experiment with
Yeah.
this new thing that a student invented. Like, this is amazing.
Right.
So we can all
That's
collaborate together.
that's also like a really cool thing with taking the class by you is like you are still also a student. You may be leading us and you are our mentor, but you're also still learning. And you don't shy away from that, which is a very welcoming experience when finding a mentor.
Yeah.
Like it's a very welcoming experience because I've had mentors in the past that it's very big ego driven and
Uh,
it's just feels icky. And coming to your class is not, it's the opposite of that.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, that means a
Yeah.
lot. I try to keep my own ego in check, every step of the way.
Mhm.
Because and to go back to that beginner's mind, every time that
Right.
I start the program again and be like, okay, what if it was my first time going into the records? Like what I
Right.
need or what support what I need and so on and so forth. Um, but I want to hear more about you. So as we went through the program, and you
Hmm.
started sort of tackling some of these things that were coming up and moving through all of that. How do you feel your relationship to the records progressed or evolved? And where do you feel like if you catch us up to where it is today?
Today.
Yeah.
Let's see. So I took your first course before you had the mastery track years ago.
I know.
And that was
I think you were part of like the very
the
first
very
time
first.
I was doing it as a group. Yeah, which
Yeah.
is huge. And
Yes. I remember because I remember you saying this is the first time we're offering this virtually in a group setting, which
yes.
is very cool to like I don't know, it's just very cool to like witness the growth even with the classes and the
Yeah.
material too. But I remember going from that first class of being really reserved and really like questioning my own gifts and gifts is a wrong word because I mean that's anyways, I can go down that tangent later, but our own abilities, I guess would
Yeah.
say. I went from questioning my own abilities to now after completing your first course series and then now your mastery track, it's like I think I was thinking about this. I'm like, wow, so much has changed for the better because I am no longer questioning my own abilities. I'm allowing it to evolve more. And I would say, like, for me, the mastery track was more like they were both healing for myself, but going back and learning more again, the mastery track really was like, you're gonna be healing more. And it was a lot of just like more self healing versus like I mean it definitely helped my clients for sure.
Yeah.
But it was like more of it was definitely like for me and my own growth.
Yeah.
And even in those like 16 weeks, it was I went from like, okay, I'm, doing client work and doing this, but like I evolved quite a bit from okay, this is how I read them to like, okay, this is how I read them now,
Yeah.
and being more open to the evolution of it and being open to like, went from a very rigid, where like, okay, well, this is how it's read, this is what is seen, this is the only way I can see things, I can process things, to now going, okay, like for me, like let's say the record keepers, for instance,
Mhm.
I was very, like when I do records reading, I see their keepers differently each time I go into the records.
Yes.
And for a long time, I'm like, wow, it can only be the same record keepers when I see the same client. And now, after going through that, I'm like, I've evolved so much where like I trust my instinct and I go, okay, actually, your record keeper is appearing in this way to me today. So it was a lot of just like gaining my own trust
Mm.
and like truly
Hmm.
leaning into that evolution of like, okay, well, I was reading in this fashion and now I like to do it this way and integrating more like other work and other modalities into it too. It's
Yeah.
not so separate for me anymore. It's a constant evolution
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
allowing that evolution to actually take place.
Yes. That makes so much sense. But I think what you're saying is really important. You know, the more you heal yourself through the records, like that is like the quality of the work you can offer as a healer is dependent in a lot of ways
Yes.
on like the quality of like who we are as a human being, or
Right.
does that make sense? And when I
Oh
say
yeah, it totally
quality, I
does.
mean like integrity, clarity,
Right.
groundedness, like trusting ourselves, everything you're saying.
Yes.
So the more you clear yourself out, then
Yes.
when you show up with a client, it's you can be more present. And I
Yes.
think you're saying something really important about when we don't fully trust ourselves, sometimes that's when we might go more into these like rigid ways of
Yes.
working with our modalities because we feel like, well, if I veer off, then like what's going to
It's the
happen? I don't
wrong
know.
thing.
It's
Yeah.
I can't go into like the mystery if I don't know what's going to happen, like, or I got to prepare
Right.
in advance and over
Or I'm going
prepare.
back into fear and like the fear of the
Yes,
unknown and going back under that
exactly.
contract, which you don't want to do.
No. So it sounds like you moved a lot from like more of this like rigid place into like
The
openness,
flow.
trust. That's a great word.
Yeah. It's
Flow,
been a
which
lot more flow.
yeah, I don't think we can flow as well if we're not trusting, right? Like trust is
Right.
essential to flowing and
Yes.
going with into the mystery of wherever the records
Yes.
want to take us. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
That's been like the biggest, I guess, the biggest growth and hurdle that I've been going into is going from rigid to flow and
Yeah.
just moving with the records versus like I always say that I'm seeking, even in my own records, I'm like, okay, I'm going to turn over every rock and every pebble. But if that rock doesn't want to turn over, then that's fine. I'm not going to force it. So it's a lot more flow. And
Yes.
I'm like, well, what comes forward comes forward.
Yes. Well, because you're trusting that too, as more, right? It's like
Yeah,
trusting that each and every time you're going to get exactly what is most needed, as we say over
exactly.
and over in the program, right?
Right.
Records always give us exactly what we most.
Exactly.
So it's a matter of like really being attuned to that,
Hmm.
listening to that, not resisting it, not wanting it
I'm
to
not
be,
being scared.
not being
Yeah.
scared. That's huge.
Hmm.
Yeah. So you can really
Yeah.
what needs to come through in the moment. So you
Yes.
mentioned you're also incorporating some other approaches or tools into with the
Yes.
records. I'd love to hear a little bit about that too.
Yeah. Well, I've been a Reiki practitioner for like 16 years now. But I really, again, after the birth of my child, like I kind of gave up that part of myself for so long. So I like restarted that journey along with the Akashic Records. It was a whole, I call it the spiritual revolution of Jess. It's
Oh,
like that year was like spent getting back into my modalities. So I've been really incorporating like my Reiki work, which I have a couple different sects of Reiki that I do. And then I'm really big into sound therapy right now. So like tuning forks and singing bowls and brass bowls. I'm like really big into it. I have a thunder gourd that my mom created. It's very cool, like to just the sound infused with Akashic records. It's very cool. And just allowing that to integrate and flow. Like I do keep I have separate readings, but
mhm.
like when I book people for like the full shebang, it's like integrating all of that in together and allowing that to kind of process for them. So
Yes.
it's a lot. It's a lot. And I'm like continuing my training journey later in this year too,
Oh, nice.
into like shamanic training as well. So it's like a constant seeking of knowledge and integrating. And at the core of it, I always come back to like past lives, limiting belief work, all of that Akashic Records m- meat of
Yes,
it.
for sure. Yes. Yes. So do you feel like the records are, well, first of all, there's a lot of trust involved and as well in, okay, let's open the
Hmm.
records and then see what the client maybe most needs in the moment, and then you
Yes.
can pull and like bring the tool that is most appropriate, right? Just knowing that
Yes.
you have the capacity and the expertise to be able to do that.
Yeah, so like I'll even pull tarot cards into it because I
Right.
do that separately. But I'm like, actually, the keepers are not providing, they're giving me kind of fuzzy information. It's usually when I'm like, okay, they're giving me fuzzy information. Let's see if they'll allow the cards to speak through.
Yes.
Yeah, because then it's that communication with the client face to face too, because they're
Yes.
saying, "Oh," and I will speak to them how I read the card. I'm like, "But what do you feel with this?" And it's that communication in the records.
Yes. Amazing. So you're doing that back and forth as well and collaborating with the
Yes, when
client.
I'm doing, yes, especially when I'm doing my in-person face-to-face readings.
Right. Yes. Amazing. Um, okay. Do you want to talk a little bit as well about in this last cohort that we were in together, there I feel like there was a common theme emerging for many of you about like visibility
Oh,
and
yes.
fear of being more visible or just
Being seen.
being seen for
Yeah.
being fully powerful, all of these things. And I just love
Yes, we're
your
still talking about that.
oh yay. Okay. Because you're still in touch with people
Right.
from the group. So
Yes.
I'd love to hear what your experience was a little bit with all of that.
Oh gosh. Like this whole that the last the, yeah, that whole thing really opened up because I was moving through that uncovering and teasing out just the fear contract and like all of
Right.
the subcontracts done with that. So I was
Right.
like, okay, I'm feeling really good about this. I'm no longer afraid. Like I feel great. And then I start the class with you and the cohort and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Like this is a new one.
Right. It's a
So it was like
it's another layer of the onion, right?
another layer. It's an
Yeah.
onion. So it was definitely a fear of like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm doing the damn thing now and I like doing it and it's time that I need to share it. So there's been just this huge growth and like discomfort and like it's just kind of moving through that discomfort and like moving through the ick, knowing that this is it's a process and it is not a forever thing. It's temporary. Like, and reminding myself, I'm like, okay, I'm shedding this layer. So yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be itchy. It's going to feel kind of yucky at times, but I'm shedding the layer of being seen and giving especially with the cohort, the weekly meetings, it was an opportunity to be seen more because it's like we're being seen in a safe container
Yeah.
and there's no judgment there. So it was an opportunity for practicing speaking my truth. And then we also have we created a side chat for all of us, which we are still growing through. Like we're still offering readings to each other and growing. We're all growing through the being seen thing. And
Mhm.
we're reminding ourselves like, okay, one small step into being seen. You don't have to just like stand in the middle of Times
Right.
Square
Yeah.
naked.
Naked. Right. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And that's
It's,
typically how we think it has to be, right? It's like, oh,
yeah.
I'm in my little cocoon one day, and then the next
Right.
day I'm gonna
I'm
be out
like
for the whole
full
world
out
to see.
there. But that's not how it works.
Right. It
It's
can be
just like
more gradual. Yeah.
subtle and yeah. So I've been noticing even a change in my own practice, whether that's my personal or with clients, where like I've always done in like the last 2 years, I do like metaphysical markets and events
Yeah.
with that. So it's very quick readings and
Yeah.
it is a practice in being seen because it's like, oh wow, we are with hundreds of people that are
Right.
coming to this event and how can I show that I am comfortable? Because as let's say as somebody going to look for a reader, I want to go to somebody that like is confident in knowing what they're doing and
Yeah.
can offer a safe container.
Right.
So I really went into, okay, how can I show up and
Mm.
be seen as this person, as this safe person to come to,
Hmm.
because that's what I would want. So it was a lot of reflection and like really showing up how I would want others to show up,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
It does.
And it's
Yes.
really evolved my practice too.
Yes. Yeah. It sounds like you're speaking about like you were tapping into, the version of yourself that can show
Yes.
up in this way and then just kind of
Yes.
going and doing the thing because we
It was
can't
like
get
working
there.
backwards. Yeah.
Right.
I
Yes,
was,
exactly. Like
yeah.
reverse engineering it and then showing
Yes.
up and actually doing the thing, which is how you
Yes.
get through the fear of being seen. Like you can't
Right.
get through it
Yes.
hiding, right? You can't.
No.
So,
And sometimes when you're hiding, you can't even see the next step. And so it's like you get stuck in the spiral, really. You get stuck in the spiral and you can't see the step. But if you could see, like, if you can even imagine, okay, but this is where I want to be. So what's the step before that? And start reverse engineering it, which is what I had to do. Because once again, I thought there was a right way to do it. There's a specific way to do it. Somebody tell me what to do. I don't
Right.
know. And again, it comes down to trusting yourself and like really working with your own limiting beliefs and finding others to help you tease through things that you may not see because you're too close to the problem.
Right. Yes. Which is another great, that's a great reminder for why even we ourselves as healers or readers
Yes.
need our own healers and readers,
Yes.
right?
Healers need healers too.
Yeah, I know, which I think was another common theme of this last cohort, like
Yes.
coming into that realization that it helps us be better
Yeah.
healers if we have that place that we can go to
Right.
and be supported. So, yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you feel through the program the records helped you release any other like major fears or limiting beliefs that
Gosh.
you would want to mention?
Yeah, it helped me work through a lot of stuff, actually, like, especially in my relationships with my family.
Mm.
And releasing, like, especially going back through, like, I'll get snippets from my past lives and I go, oh, this behavior makes a lot more sense now. So let's kind of figure out why I'm doing it and reprocess that. It also helped me process a lot of like there's been a lot of big personal things happening in my life and not necessarily great personal things.
Yep.
So it has allowed me to process that in a more healthy and safe way.
Yeah.
And like you're especially this last program came at like I mean nothing is a coincidence, right? It never is. So when I was said yes to your program, it came at the most perfect time as I was going through a very big troubling life
Mm.
process. And
Hmm.
so it helped me kind of center instead of like get all staticky and allowing my energy to go in other weird frantic ways. It allowed me to focus on something that I can actually utilize and work with.
Mm.
So it's kind of like a boat to me, honestly. Like the Akashic Records I see as a boat. It's like, okay, I can steer it. It's physical, but it's not physical, but I can envision it being physical and I can utilize the tool to help me.
Yes. Yeah, I love that visual and that they can offer that support even when there's a stormy sea of
Yes.
life, right? Which
Yes.
happens.
Yes.
We're
It
still going to have ups and
happens.
downs. We're still
Right.
human. We're going to get triggered. But if we have the
Absolutely.
records, it's that life
It's like a
boat
life
or,
preserver.
yeah, life
Like,
preserver. And it's also like
yeah.
an anchor, right? That helps
Yes. It's all of the
stay.
above.
It is all of the above. ABC, all of the above.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and speaking of that, so how would you describe your relationship to the records like today? Like where does it
Mm.
stand today? Are you using them like daily or consistently for
I
yourself? Are you using them mostly for
mm.
clients? How are you using them?
So I will not say should because should gives
Yes.
guilt, right?
Right, no should.
But
Yeah.
no shoulds. Um, I have been trying to veer my personal Akashic records to happen more regularly and consistently.
Yeah.
It's not an everyday occurrence. I I've forgiven myself and not blaming myself for making it. And that's another evolution that's
Huge.
happened in this process is like I don't blame myself for
Yeah.
it not doing it enough. There's not a rule. There's not a rule.
Oh, yeah.
So but I have been trying to make it a more regular thing where I am realizing, oh, hey, I'm kind of stuck in this mindset. So like what's going on there? And that's when I allow myself to go and allow is the wrong word for this, but I guess allow the time. I make the
Yes.
time to go
Right.
into the
Right.
records.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm mostly using it. I would say I'm mostly using it with client-based work right now. So that's kind of like my bread and butter and what I offer.
Yeah.
And so I've been fine-tuning what the records look like with my clients and how it shows up with my client work too.
Yes. Amazing. Which again is also like an ever evolving process,
Right.
right?
It all is.
Yeah. And as you said, you're going to have additional training this year. So
Yes.
like we'll see how that fits into
Right.
everything,
We'll
right?
see.
Or even like elevates what you're doing with the records, right? Because it
Yes.
just keeps growing. Um,
Right.
yeah, that's
And I'm
amazing.
also doing more like workshops too.
Oh,
So
nice.
I'm
Yeah.
bringing the Akashic Records into more group settings,
Oh,
which I
nice.
wasn't necessarily doing that before. So it's very interesting to see kind of like how you open up the records for our cohorts in your
Yeah.
classes. I'm doing that in a workshop series or like workshops that I bring and we're, meeting our higher selves and communicating with them. It's that's where I'm finding my passion is going towards right now is those workshops and opening the records and offering kind of like that safety rope, like the dive rope when you're scuba diving. I'm like, I'll offer that to people and allow them the safety to explore so
Yeah.
they don't have to do it alone.
Wow. I love that. It is like Akashic scuba diving.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I love that. And I think there's something really magical that happens in groups, right? As you've
Yeah.
experienced on both sides now, we're just connecting to the records with that shared intention. It just really supercharges
Yes.
energy. So, yeah.
Yes. It's really interesting. And I'll get downloads in the middle of the group. I'm like, "Oh,
Oh, yeah.
somebody needs to hear this right now.
Yeah.
Feel free to keep it to yourself if you don't want to share, but
Right. Yeah.
of
Well,
course, keep
that
it
sometimes,
safe."
yeah, I know. Yeah. And you have to protect privacy and all that, right? With a group.
Right, right.
It's like different standards, but that sometimes
Yes.
happens to me too, even as I'm teaching, and I just have to keep it all,
Right.
like under wraps,
Right.
until later, or just privately tell the person. Um,
Yes.
but also what you were saying about, I mean, at least to me as an outside observer, probably I would probably guess, and it's an informed guess, that you are connecting to the records also, even when you're not like intentionally carving out
Yeah.
time and sitting and saying the prayer and doing all the things, that
Yes.
you're still, you have that like link and that bridge to the
Yes.
records open, probably at all times, I would guess.
I try to like I try and clean it, keep it hygienic. So I like I like can see like a light and I
Yeah,
try and keep that light lit if that makes
it
sense.
makes
And it's
so much sense.
I just don't want to try and control, like, even with like going back to the rigidity of when I was first learning, I'm like, okay, well, it's open at this time because I said the prayer and it's open and now it's closed, therefore it's not open. And now I'm like, okay, well, I may have closed my records, but I'm still allowing the
Yeah.
information and the energy, if it needs to come to me, to actually come. And that's
Yes.
where, like, if it's for my greatest good.
Right. Well, that's the only way they would give
Right.
us anything, right?
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's such a great way that you're putting it because I do think often in the beginning, we do want and need that structure and like of opening and
Yes,
then
absolutely.
closing, and we need to acclimate our energy to the energy of the records, like, and
And
just
learning what it feels like too.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, learning
That's
what it
what's the
feels
big,
like. Yeah.
because I can go, oh, did I receive a download because it's my overthinking brain squirrels, or is it coming from my mentors and my highest records and like my
Right.
record keepers or like my ancestors? Who is it coming from? And so being able to like feel feel it, I guess,
Yeah, that's
really.
the only way. Yeah, you got to feel it
Yes.
in your body and to be able to discern. So yeah,
Yes.
it's helpful to have that structure in the beginning, but then
Yes.
obviously the deeper you go, the more you practice, the more you
The
master,
evolution of it.
then you can kind of loosen up the structure and it
Absolutely.
just becomes part of like daily life, right? And
Yes.
they're there for you.
Absolutely. And I'm so grateful for even the structure to go back to also.
Oh, for sure.
Because it's
Yes.
like, okay, well, I'm questioning myself, so let me go back to the structure of it.
Right.
So yeah, it's a lot of it's necessary still.
Yes, absolutely. And it's so important for client work. to have this
Oh,
talk. Because
absolutely.
there we
Yeah.
do want to formally open, close the
Yes, yes, yes,
records, right? Do all
yes.
the things.
I
Um,
formally do it, definitely. I formally
oh,
do
I
it
know you
for
do.
my
I know you
clients.
do. Of course, I know you do. Awesome. Okay, so do you want to share with people a little bit of kind of the readings that you're offering or
Sure,
like what you have going on right now and how can they connect with you if they're interested?
sure. Right now I live in Seattle and I have a shop I moonlight in Everett. So if you're close to the Everett area, you can come see me face to face. I work on Thursdays that day. So those are the days that I'm only doing like the face to face client work because I do still have two small children. So it's a balancing act, right? But this is still very important to me. So I do my one-on-one facing once a week, and then I have the option for email records readings. I
Hmm.
find those to be also for me equally as powerful.
Hmm.
I have a structured questions that I follow-up questions that I can ask. And it's a very pretty lengthy report when you book for a virtual reading. I will have options to do video readings as well. So if that's something that people really desire over an email records reading, then we can definitely schedule video. Those ones schedule out a little bit further. And then, of course, I do offer like mini, like 15-minute readings at local markets in the area too. And that's been really fun for me. Because I know I was talking to a fellow reader and they're like, this just doesn't vibe with me. But I'm like, but it lights me up.
Yeah.
So I do those fun readings too, just
And that's
mini readings.
just to say as a side note, because I've done some of those as well, but it's such great
Yeah.
practice. Like you get to
Yes.
practice with all kinds of different questions, clients,
Oh, absolutely.
settings, right? And then there's like
You want to be
no,
seen.
oh my God, right. And there's no
Yeah.
reading that you can't do. Like once you've
Right.
done a bunch of those, it's like it builds a lot
Absolutely.
of confidence. Yeah.
Confidence and clarity and confirmation and sometimes you might get somebody that's like, this doesn't resonate with me. So you learn like, hey, it's okay to have a reading. Like it used to kill me going, oh my God, I must have done it wrong. But really it's like, okay, so that didn't resonate with you right now, and that's okay.
Yes.
So it's getting that comfort with it. So
Huge.
yeah, I
Yes.
have a lot of different options, but
Yeah, that's so good. You're a versatile reader.
yes.
That's amazing. And just remind people your website.
Yes, I'm Jessica with The Conscious Crow, and you can always visit www.theconsciouscrow.com. I also have an Instagram handle, The Conscious Crow Collective, where I share random tidbits of information. Sometimes I share my poetry that I download from the records as well. So that's another act of being seen that I'm really excited about. Um, I'm also going back to my services and offerings real quick. I've been developing a series on your inner divine being and connecting back with that. So I will be unveiling that in the next little while, and it's more intimate one-on-one working for like 6 to 8 weeks. So it's more of a program versus just one-on-one sessions.
Yes, that's amazing. Sometimes you can go, well, not sometimes, often, in most cases, you can go so much deeper when you're with
Yes.
someone and you're building that
Yes.
rapport over time and like it
Yes.
allows deeper things to emerge. So I'm
Yes.
so
And
excited that you're doing that.
I'm really excited for it to see what comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay. Excellent. You're doing so many amazing things out in the
Oh,
world.
oh, thank
Yay.
you. It seems almost random. I'm like, oh, this is happening. This is happening. And fully accepting that it's happening for me.
Right.
So
It is.
that's where we're at. That's where we're at right now.
Yes, that's good. You're open. You're receiving. Yeah,
Yes.
that's so good.
I'm finally not shrouded in my cocoon. I'm like,
Uh,
okay, I'm here. I'm
yeah.
ready.
Well, I mean, you allowed yourself to get there. You put in the work to
Yes.
get
Oh,
there.
yeah.
You put in the time to get there. So
And there's
it
no
is
doubt
time.
there's, yeah. there's no doubt I'll probably go through a, oh my God, I need to grow stage again. I mean, I'm always, ooh, this little scale needs to come off now.
Right. Well, and it happens as you evolve, like when you're
Yes.
genuinely evolving and you're always like moving, to the next version of yourself, the next level of
Yes.
yourself, and you always hit like a new growth,
Right.
discomfort, right? As that
Yes.
happens, as you shed the old skin, as you were saying,
Yes.
and you really just allow yourself to be fully here and like fully
Yes.
brilliant. So,
I welcome it more now than I did before, honestly,
yeah,
because I have the tools that I can lean back on and I can go,
yeah,
okay, I'm super uncomfortable. Let's see what the records show me with
yeah,
this. So
yes,
it's less of a mystery and it's more of a, okay, I have tools. It's not so I'm not so scared
yeah,
anymore. And that's
yeah,
really what the records have done. It's kind of removed my fear of
right.
it and of life.
Yeah, that's incredible that you have that to tap in and connect and then see, okay, how can I better understand what is
Yes.
happening here instead of just kind of spiraling out,
Spiraling.
which, yeah. And
Yeah.
sometimes we still do, again, that's
We
okay.
still need a spiral every once in a while.
But but you have the tool and you have that anchor to go back to.
Yes.
So
And then if
amazing.
you are spiraling, reach out to one of your reader friends and be like, "Can we can we work on
Yeah.
this, please?"
No, yeah, I know. And just to remember to normalize the spiral that as
Yes,
humans we're gonna go through that multiple times, and that's okay.
absolutely.
Yeah, and that's why we have these tools to help us through
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so, so, so much
Yeah, you're
for taking the
welcome.
time to share all of this, all of your experiences.
Well, thank you for having me. This was a beautiful experience and being able to talk to you about this after the class too.
Like a
It's
little
been really fun.
debrief, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like a little debrief. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So thank you. And we're going to have your website and all of that information in the
Yes.
show notes to this podcast episode. If people feel
Great.
called, they can reach out.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much. And thank you everyone for tuning in. I will catch you next time.